Welcome to existence. Everybody's here. Everyone is here.
You've been so deep into your work, you've had so many issues to think of, and then you've written a book or a paper, and then all of a sudden you have to explain that to that audience. What a challenge. What a challenge. But on the other hand, also, of course, topical, necessary. I mean, you do your research within a scientific environment, but particularly for ISS, but apparently that goes also for Stellenbosch University. If you can't use it or in practice, if you can't explain your grandmother, as David Webbs was saying yesterday, then what is it worth? If you can't explain what your contribution to society at large will be.
I was mostly the only woman in the decision-making table and in the boardroom. And so I started questioning why. Why aren't there women at the decision-making table? And so when I got admission to the ISS, I chose to pursue this line to look for women at the corporate leadership. And that is the essence of my research. Why are women not making it at the top?
My research is on the sustainability of rural innovation systems through organizational and institutional arrangements. Basically, an innovation system is a network of different types of enterprises or organizations that interact to come up with a new idea or to solve a problem or to invent something.
I'll go straight to the topic of my presentation, which is the new geopolitics of foreign aid. So what do I mean by this? First of all, the geopolitics of foreign aid. Very generally, we could say that this is the use of aid policies or aid programs to serve geopolitical goals. These could either be political strategic, so winning allies or winning people to vote for you in the UN General Assembly. It could also be more commercially oriented. Why am I talking about the new geopolitics of foreign aid? Since I will argue that we see a new trend since the re-emergence of China in Africa that is also feeding into a reintroduction of some elements that were more at the background for a decade. And this is leading to a new geopolitics of foreign aid that I was talking about. So still we see that of course self-interest influenced the aid policies of traditional Western donors. But we see that there was a convergence of many aid programs trying to focus more on the development purposes of aid. And this all came together within the OECD Development Assistance Committee, where these donors actually managed to come to some agreements that focus more on this developmental purpose of foreign aid.
So colored is the first word that appears there. So colored is a racial term in South Africa, and I think it's important that I just contextualize it very briefly. So race is a social construct with absolutely no biological significance, which makes, say, white people inherently different or superior to black people. But race in South Africa is a key signifier of identity, which has far-reaching implications for how people interact and coexist. So race was codified and institutionalized under apartheid through the legal demarcation of white, black, Indian, and colored spaces, activities, institutions, and these categories are still highly significant in contemporary South Africa as symbolic markers of space and institutions such as school.
I think every one of us has heard this word called calories, I'm sure. And there are many definitions for calories, but this is one of my favorite definitions. Calories are little creatures that live in your closet and they sew your clothes tight so that in the morning or whenever you want to wear it, it's a little too tight. So the question I asked in my research is, when did food get synonymized as calories? And the second question I ask is, why did calorie become embedded in our lives as a mechanism of display? See, this is a soup packet. It's supposed to be, it says, it's in Dutch, but it says supercharge yourself. For people like me who are in Netherlands today. It says it's got only 70 kilocalories per portion. And we say, wow, it's only 70 calories. But then if you look at the other point, it says zout, which I think is salt, is 1.4 grams. And our minimum requirement of salt is 1.5 grams. So I want to end it with this slide, which is, just because it is low in calories doesn't mean it's healthy. And just because it's high in calories, it doesn't mean it's unhealthy. And the whole debate on, and the whole dictatorship of calorie has completely marginalized all other knowledges and discourses on food and nutrition. Thank you very much.
I'm looking specifically at the role of a newspaper called The Weekend Nation. The Weekend Nation is a political paper, it's a Saturday paper, and it was launched in 1993 by a politician in the name of Alege Banda. So I'm looking at the implications of media ownership on the role of the newspaper to consolidate democracy. Also against the background that between 2002 and 2012, the three governments, three presidents in that government during this period, representing different political parties, had expressed some kind of distaste towards this newspaper.
It was a joyous moment in 1990, on March 21, when the Namibian flag was lifted up for the first time ever. Not only were the Namibian people free at last, but they were expectant of the good to come. They looked forward to experiencing the fruits of their struggle. At last, they will be having a government of their own, which they voted into power. The government that will listen to our plight, address our needs, provide for us. That was what was going in my mind on the day of independence. And I can almost with certainty say the same was going in the minds of all Namibians, or most Namibians. That is the story behind my research on decentralization of fiscal functions. I thank you.
And if we have a quick look at these images, I mean, there's a black rhino and some elephant, and this is an iconic landscape of the Serengeti National Park. So this is part of the wildebeest migration. You know, why do these images promote these ideas of value, and why do we value such landscapes? You know, where are the people in these landscapes? Were these landscapes always devoid of people? And so often we don't really ask these questions. But you know, we construct these animals as symbols and flagships and charismatic species or iconic species. And as a result, these conservation spaces are becoming increasingly militarized. And so people are starting to talk about green militarization or the green war. And I know some of these people, they're really nice people, but the question that I want to leave you with is, when we see these ideas of crisis and conservation, how does it shape our values? Why do we value those things to the extent where we legitimize the use of force, and why does force become normalized in these spaces? Thank you.
if I would start by explaining the whole content of my research without explaining what does the border mean, maybe you would ask, what do you mean by border? What typology of border are you talking about? In fact, I'll say you're right, because border have different diversity and contradictory meaning. So border is a product of social construct. So with this scenario, the question that I'm trying to address in my PhD research is that how do the state and local communities understand border? What kind of function the border should perform? And how this function are being established? The state keeps controlling the border in a more state-centered approach, and this state-centered approach is for protection of sovereignty and also natural resources. So this is more national-oriented security and understanding.
So the goal of the dissertation is to improve the understanding of the performance context of the system of local government, as well as of individual municipalities in South Africa. And the objective that I employ to achieve this goal is to develop a model of the institutional capacity of municipalities. And this model is diagnostic in orientation and can be used by national and provincial governments to fulfill their constitutional mandate of supporting and monitoring local government positions. So, in other words, first of all, we need to get municipalities viable. But then we also need to talk about sustainability of municipalities. So for a viable municipality, I say the key area that we have to look at is leadership, and that's underpinned by elements, long-term vision and planning, revenue, or fiscal management, we can also call that, public participation and human resources, and then to create viability over the long term. I say that innovation is the area that we have to add to that.
For the violence, the government is also involved. So the company can easily say, it's not me. I didn't buy land. It's someone else, a new investor. And I didn't kill you, it's the police. So because of that, establishment of accountability, localized accountability is next to impossible. Another reason why there's no accountability is multiple yardsticks. These companies are allowed to produce their own report on environmental issues, self-regulation, because the government don't have enough capacity to do so. And it's not independent, the regulatory authority is not independent. And the community cannot produce scientific evidence to contest what the company is saying. So the company can, as far as the evidence is concerned, can easily refute the claims.
Different way, I've seen that all of you have accepted the challenge, and I've seen good quality presentations. Thank you very much. Thank you also for the others to come and listen to what colleagues and friends have in their mind and wanted to present. Fantastic. I consider this really a gift to the ISS and to our collaboration between Stellenbosch and ISS. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome to existence. Everybody's here. Everyone is here.